Well, hello everyone. Good morning. Um, my name is Alan Dickerson, Stiegler, and welcome to another installment of Stiegler for the Details. And today, as I said, I was going to do something a little different. Every year, I usually celebrate the 4th of July and the Battle of Gettysburg, which happens on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of July by watching the Maxwell movie called Gettysburg and having fun with that. This year, I thought I'd do something different, and I would kind of address a couple of things. People keep asking me for playthroughs and examples of play, tutorials, and things for the great battles of the American Civil War series. And I started producing some of those, and I just found I really don't like producing those tutorial videos. It's really, really difficult to get all the mechanics of the game correct and right, and then you have to annotate them with overlays and all kinds of stuff, and it's really just drudgery, at least for me, to produce these. So I just thought, maybe I should just do a playthrough and actually show how the game flows and how it plays turn by turn, and that would probably be the best example I could give anyone for uh, for gameplay. So I decided, well, since it's July 1st, I would start with the first day of Gettysburg on its 157th anniversary, I believe, and just start with the classic Heth versus Buford uh, duel to the west of Gettysburg and just see how far we can get, how many examples we can make, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to change the screen here. And from here on out, I'm going to basically just leave the Vassal module up here. I will keep the comments in on another screen. So, feel free to post comments, and I will try to refer back to that as I move through the gameplay, and will try and answer some of your questions as I go. All right, so you're now looking at the very northeast area of the screen here, and this is where Heth enters along the road there, and also to the right of the road. You can see that there's a large artillery battalion, which is somewhat oddly placed on a ridge there along the avenue of advance. And then moving back towards town, we see here elements of Buford's cavalry, and in Gettysburg itself are more elements of Buford's cavalry. Let me give you a kind of an overview map. Here's the overview map. If you can see this square, this is kind of what the main screen is showing. So you can see the square covers most of Gettysburg, and so does the main screen. So we're starting up here with Buford versus Heth. We're starting here, and Union reinforcements start appearing way down here almost immediately. There are also some up here, but they have variable entry chances. So it's basically based on a die roll, and I'll figure out whether or not they enter a little bit later. Okay, so let's kind of get right to it. We start off with initiative. The Confederates are assumed to have initiative because they're the ones wandering onto the map, heading towards Gettysburg, they think, looking for shoes. So they will go first. Now, on the first turn, Heth is limited to 2 activations. The Union have to draw efficiency in the normal way. So we'll go through that first. We'll open our draw pool display. Here, I'll enlarge it a little bit, maybe so that you can see a little better. All right, so we start off by assembling the number of efficiency markers here. We get 2 1s, we get 5 2s. Start these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we'll start with, we have 9 3s. Oh my goodness, so got a lot of those. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 3s, and 2 4s. So as you can see, it's assumed that most Union formations, even as the battle gets very, very large, you can assume that the average is 3. You're going to have a smattering of 2s, an occasional 1, occasional 4, but mostly you're going to have 3s. Also, the way this Vassal module works, you can mask these so that the other side can't see them. Efficiency draw is normally done in secret, but for purposes of this, since I'm playing both sides, I'm not going to bother going through that subterfuge. I have a little comment there I'll get rid of. All right, so I'm going to just toss all of these, or actually, well, no, I'm gonna leave them in here. I've gotten used to using this hat for efficiency draws. Now, as I said, we already know that the Confederates get an efficiency of 2, so that's assumed. For the Union, we draw 1 for Buford's cavalry, and we draw, well, I guess to be accurate, we should draw 1 for Wadsworth and the Union reinforcements, although because they enter in march orders, they pretty much get to pick what their efficiency is or how tiring they want their march to be. All right, so I will start with the Union Order of Battle card here. And all we have are, let's see here, the cavalry here for Buford. So I will draw 1 efficiency for him, and I will unmask it. And what do you know? Buford starts with a 1. That's not good. And then I will draw 1 for Wadsworth, which is First Corps under Reynolds. And I will draw his efficiency, and he gets a 3. Not that it's really going to make that much of a difference. The really important thing here is that Buford only gets 1. That's going to be a instant small problem for him to set up a good blocking position. All right, so we're going to take the rest of these chits out. Take the rest of these chits out and just keep them here for future turns. That way we can just drag them all in and do it that way. I've got to, oh boy, well, all right. So now we've got that, and now we move to the activation markers. And for the Confederates, we have Heth. We know he's going to have 2. We know that he has a initiative, so he starts with 1 in play, puts the other 1 into the hat, and then we know the Union has 3 for Wadsworth. The Union gets their March chit to put in. The Confederates also get a March chit. They have units start in March. We'll dump that in there. We already have Heth in there. It is also possible. It's also possible that the Union will get some other reinforcements, and according to the reinforcement schedule, it says that the Stone and Rowley reinforcements will enter on the first turn with a die roll of 0 or 1. So I'll make that determination now. What do you know? They enter. Okay, so that will be Rowley's division. So let me find that in the Union. Well, actually, he's going to enter under 301. Doubleday. Hang on a second. I'm trying to figure out who Rowley actually is in the Union hierarchy. Let me try that. All right, let's find out where Rowley is. Is he a division, or see Wadsworth? I think he's part of Wadsworth's division. There's 2 brigades there. Robinson's division. His brigades are Paul and Baxter. Doubleday's division. Rowley is a brigade of Doubleday's division. Okay. So then Doubleday is what we need to put into the hat. And also, I suppose, since he would get 3 as well. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's also make sure that we have both March chits in there. I think we do. Confederate, Union, yes, we do. All right, so we have all of the chits ready to go. And now we can actually start. So Heth starts. And we'll go up here and we'll find that we have basically only one brigade, Archer's Brigade, leading the way here. They are all in command. They start in advance orders, which is kind of neutral. They don't have any specific orders. Then right behind them in march is Davis's brigade. Units that are in march only activate when the march chit for their side is pulled, and they ignore any activations for the division they may be a part of or the corps they may be a part of. So they actually will not be activating. The artillery here is under Heth's division, so they are 3 corps artillery, but they are attached to Heth's division. So they activate as a brigade, separate brigade with Heth. So let's see here. First thing I want to do is pivot the leaders. Counters, I prefer to see those there. And let me check here. And let me say hello to people who have gathered. All right. As I said, feel free to toss in any comments or questions as I move along, and I will check back here um, presently to see what's going on and answer any questions as they come up. All right, so here we go. We're going to just assume that they're expecting to just wander down into Gettysburg and get shoes, and so they're going to basically move forward fairly expeditiously until they get contact. So we'll start with this unit here, what is that? 5th Alabama, and they'll move along the road. The road takes out any problems relative to ascending or descending slopes. There are some orchards here in front, but they don't affect movement anyway. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So they go through this little swale, pop up on the slope, and are very quickly spotted by the cavalry. The other units will just keep them in a line and move them up 6 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's pivot Archer. As I said, I prefer to keep my leaders straight up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. All right, there they go. Now the artillery is kind of they're kind of hemmed in here. They've got this march column right to their right, and they're on top of a ridge, and you've got a stream and some woods directly in front of them. So that doesn't bode well for their utility going forward. And I guess with complete omniscience, what I ought to do is, just move them forward beside the road and tug them through this little forest, but that's really going to take a lot of time. However, they're certainly not going to use the road in any event, and they could wait until the march column goes past, but then there are going to be more troops behind them. So with all that in mind, I figured our leader here, Pegram, is going to just say, you know what, let's just tug them right through the woods there and head for the next ridge. So I'm going to now consult my terrain effects chart and find out just how expensive these woods hexes are going to be. So for artillery, they're going to cost 4 movement points. Going down a level doesn't affect anyone. These are all very slight rolling hills. And we also, we also have a creek in front. And, creeks are prohibited for artillery. So we're not actually even going to be able to move across that creek. Let's look down here. Nope. There's really not going to be much for it, but to possibly shove our way through the march column, that we can actually do. It will cost 2 movement points for the artillery to get through any unit in a hex that it enters to get through to the other side. They're not going to be able to stay in the march column, but I guess they can kind of shove their way through it. Maybe, I don't know, go down along the unfinished railroad bed, but there's really not a bridge there. So actually they are stuck. They are kind of stuck where they are until the troops pass. So I think what they will do is en masse just move forward and maximize their range there. So I got a bit of a stutter there. Hang on a second. Every now and again you'll get a stutter with Vassal. Let me, there we go. Oh, I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. All right, finally it caught up. So they're going to down the shelf. Man, I don't, look at those buttes right behind it. I don't know how they got up there. They must have actually come up the road and then moved in single file down along this hill. But at any rate, there they are. Okay, so Heth has finished his move, and I will remove the movement marker for all of those. Then I will go to the order of battle card here and move the Heth chit here to show that he has played in AM, stow that, and draw the next one. And now we get Wadsworth division, and we are going to ignore that because Wadsworth is going to enter in march order. So they're waiting for the march chit. So we're really going to end up throwing away all of these activations. So we'll draw the next one. It's Doubleday, same thing for those reinforcements. They're going to enter with the march chit. And so we're quickly going to get through this turn, even though we have a lot of draws to make. USA gets its march chit first. Okay, so let's start that process. And we will go way down here. And let's start with these elements of the First Corps. They are going to start in March. This is Rowley, or actually Rowley's replacement. I'm not sure why we have a replacement before we have had the first casualty, but we do. And we're going to start them in march orders. And so they enter with this brigade of, let me zoom in a little bit here. Some fairly decent, well, actually mediocre troops except for one regiment there, the Pennsylvanians. Then we have Stone's Brigade, which has some high quality units there, and one battery. So let us start then by putting Stone out in front. And we can see that Stone as a brigadier is cautious. So that may come into play if he tries to change his orders, in which case he actually has a negative modifier when trying to change his orders. Should he roll an adjusted 4 because he is cautious, his troops would just end up taking a couple of steps backward, and then, who knows, if what you want him to do is attack, that would not be a very good turn of events. Nevertheless, let's press on and let's figure out a route here. Let's look at our overview here. And he enters here, and let's figure that we're going to have him kind of form a southern part of a defense here, short of town along this creek. So we're going to aim to send him along the creek here. I'm checking the comments right now to see if anybody has asked any questions. Don't see any. Welcome, Patricio. I see your comment there about Gleam of Bayonets. I would say that a remake for Gleam of Bayonets is not on the immediate horizon, but I have seen a draft of a replacement map that is going to be done up in this style with these graphics for Sharpsburg and Antietam. So someone's thinking about it. I won't really tip off who. I know a few more details that I'm really not at liberty to discuss much, but there it is. All right, so let's get back down to our reinforcements here. And they're all under march orders. They're going to enter here. They're entering along a regular road. And roads are now we have the first interesting little conundrum here. Pikes and roads are supposed to be 1/2 a movement point, but I'm holding a hard copy chart of the terrain effects card here, and it says 1. So I'm a little confused. I'm not exactly sure which rate to use. But I do know that there are some things in the charts for this particular game that reflect the older systems. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow on pikes and roads 1/2 a movement point per hex in March. That's what I'm going to do, because I thought it might have been as much as 1/3, such as we see sometimes on Dead of Winter, which I think is a crazy amount of movement points that you can get in March mode. But nevertheless, we're going to go with 1/2. Also, because in March orders, you do an entire turn's worth of movement all at once, and you determine how many activations between 1 and 4 that you're going to use. And then depending on the terrain you take, if you stay on the roads, you can use 3 activations worth of movement with no fatigue effects. And then a 4th would gain you 1 fatigue level. If you leave the road or pike for even 1 hex for any part of your march movement, then you get 2 activations free of fatigue. The 3rd and the 4th, if you decide to take them, each add 1 fatigue level. Thanks there, Mike. I see your comment there. I'm wondering if you have another set of charts for 3 Days of Gettysburg, because the logo I have on mine kind of reflects maybe the first printing, even though I do have a 3rd edition. So I'm a little bit confused. But you know what? What you have there actually sounds right. So I'm going to assume that roads are 1 and pikes are 1/2. That makes sense. So here we're going to be on roads, and those are going to be 1. So we're going to say that this column here is going to use 3 activations worth of movement, and they get all 3 of them free because they're going to be on a road for the entire time. All right, we're going to lead with Stone. Let's change his orders also to March here. And let's start here. So if we're going to do 3 activations worth at 6 movement points, and this is a regular road and not a pike, so I can move 18 hexes basically. Whoops. Let's see if I can shift this. Okay, let's start with this unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1 activation's worth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2 activations worth. And let's zoom out a little bit to make sure he's going kind of where we want him to. Yeah, okay, 1 more activation is worth. Let's zoom in again. And let's head 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Change his facing to face a X side when you're in March. And we will add an extended column because he has 9 strength points, and anything I believe 7 or more, you have to use an extended column. So there's that. We'll move the 2nd regiment in behind them. Another extended column, which we will clone and drag in this way, and then rotate it. And then Stone, since he's cautious with the 2nd Brigade, he doesn't want to get out in front. And then we have our 3rd Brigade there, which is also large enough to require an extended column marker. Okay. Then we'll move on Rowley and his replacements. We'll start with this regiment here. Only 6 for them. So we can get another regiment in behind them. We have 7. I believe that requires an extended column. Let me check my rules real quick and find out whether it's 7 or 8. Let's see. Stacking and movement. Maybe. Where is it? Enemy units, reaction movement, movement mode. Page 16, I believe, is what I'm looking for. Extended columns. Extended columns. Where's the number? Come on. Advance orders. No. March. No, it's not there. Advance movement. Where is it? March orders. Extended columns. 8 or more. So they don't need one, but this one surely does. And we will, again, clone that and put Rowley at the head of the bunch. And then wheeling up behind all of that is the artillery. There we go. So let me show you where on the overall map this is. So they enter here. Here's Gettysburg here. And here's Heth entering. And here are the advance elements of the cavalry. There we go. So we'll stow that. Now we'll move farther south. And now we have Wadsworth beginning to enter. And he's got a large number of reinforcements entering here. Let's see what we've got. And yeah, we're going to have spillover, so we have these extra road hexes that are actually trailing off map. Let's see here. That's interesting. I'm wondering whether they all come along this road. Oh, I see. So you could enter here and then shift over there and enter there if you choose to. I don't think we're going to choose to. We're going to just enter here. And here we get to enter along a pike. So that will be a half a movement point. All right, so we have Cutler's Brigade here, which is was a pretty good brigade with 7 cohesion for everyone there. And then we have the famed Iron Brigade here under Meredith. We have an aggressive brigadier with a +2 for his order change. And look at those cohesions, 8s and 9s. These guys are badass. From Wisconsin mostly, a couple Michigan, Indiana, but mostly Wisconsin. These guys are the famed Black Hats. So let's lead with them. And of course, everyone is in March. Let me change Cutler's orders. Let's Control R. And we've got Wainwright. They're artillery, so it doesn't matter. We'll even go for the division there. Entire divisions under march orders. Okay, so let us use 3 activations worth also for them, because since they get 1/2 a movement point, they're really going to go really far. So let's start with these guys and start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1 activation's worth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2 activations worth. They are really flying up that road. And we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Finally. And wow. Let's see where that is relative to town. They've almost caught up with Stone. And next turn they'll make Gettysburg. So that's a pretty good march there. Okay. So let us then go back to our entry hexes, get the rest of the brigade, and move them up. Start with whoops. Keep forgetting that I changed the shortcut for changing facing to use the number control pads, much to my chagrin now. I moved away from the period and the comma. And 7 for him. They go there. Checking. Yeah. Press you. Actually, I should use that discipline, and I'm going to take your advice and do that right now. The first thing you should do whenever you start a game of Vassal, whether you're playing by yourself or for anyone else, is actually start a log file. Here you go to the file, and you begin a log file. And let's send it to my three dog first day. Okay. And now we're starting a log file. That's a very good catch, because sometimes you can, in the heat of battle, especially if this is the middle of a game and you're exchanging files with your opponent, and you get their log file um, in your email, and you're all excited because some interesting things are happening, and you open it up and you start playing through, and you get to a point where you need to make a reaction, and you just start in. And then when you get to the end of all that, maybe an hour later, you made all kinds of die rolls that have favored you. And then you go to save the log file so that you can send it back to your opponent. And then you go here under the file menu, and end log file is grayed out because you didn't begin a log file. There's no log file to then end. And now you've got to do it all over again, or convince your opponent to trust you. So yes, that is a discipline that you very quickly learn when you get burned a few times playing a vassal game. All right, back to the columns. Now we'll move Cutler's bunch in behind them, or do we? Now let's do something different. We're gonna move the artillery in behind, and here we go. So artillery in March, I believe, can get 2 batteries for stacking. Let me check that on page 12. In March orders, artillery, 2 batteries regardless of the number of guns. So we're going to stuff 12 guns in each of these 2 hexes. And we're going to change their facing. Put Wainwright on top. Then we're going to go back here. And now we're going to move in. Oh, I forgot Meredith at the head of the Iron Brigade. Come on. Go. There we go. Go. There we are. That guy's aggressive. He'll definitely lead from the front. Now we'll move Cutler up. Come on. Come on. There we go. And we'll arrange them. 7, 7, 5, and 8 with an extended column. Love that clone feature. Saves you a lot of time fishing around back in here. Okay. Then we have Reynolds and Wadsworth. Reynolds doesn't come on right now because he is a corps commander, and they only move at the very end of the turn as part of the corps commander and overall leader's movement phase. So he really is with them, but he doesn't enter right now. Let's move the division leader, Wadsworth, here, and we're going to say put him with Wainwright. I'm going to put him in the middle of the column. The reason I'm doing this is that anticipating that the corps commander will come up behind everyone, and you want to keep everyone possible within command. And sometimes with advanced movement rates, you can get a column all strung out, and you'll actually find that somebody's out of command. So by putting him here, his radius is 5 leader movement points, which would be 10 on a pike. So his radius extends at least 10 hexes in front of him on the road. So Meredith will also be in command. If I stacked him there with Meredith, you'd start to run the risk that, some of these brigades behind here with Cutler might be out of command when you start to deploy them. So that's why I kind of put him towards the middle there. All right, so there's that. For some reason, my reinforcement schedule is telling me that 7th Indiana is to be left off of these reinforcements as brigade minus 7th Indiana. So I figure 7th Indiana is, oh, there it is. It's 3 o'clock for some reason. They're delayed. I don't know. Maybe they're tending the herd or something like that. But at any rate, there we go. So as you can see, that was the March segment. So we did an entire turn of grand tactical movement all at once. And that's what March represents. The rest of the units that are not in March are assumed to, depending on the number of activations they get, spend them in a unknown order relative to their own troops and also relative to the enemy. That's what the chit pull is all about. The two sides don't know what the efficiency is of their opponent. Of course, they can extrapolate. As you see, the Union has a whole bunch of 3s, so that's probably what they're going to get. But you never know when they're going to get a 4 or a 2 or a 1. Same thing with the Confederates. So you don't know what your enemy's efficiency is, and you also don't know the order at which the chits are going to come out of the hat, except for the player that wins initiative. He gets to choose who moves first. But after that, everything is drawn out of the hat. You don't know. Sometimes you can get consecutive activations for the same division, which is a great, it's almost like a random event, if you will, because it really gives you an opportunity to, both maneuver maybe and attack or something, gain in the enemy's flank, things like that. But of course, you still don't know when that's going to happen, so you can't really plan for it. All right, so now we are done with the Union March phase. So I will put that there, stow this, and then keep drawing chits. Doubleday, we ignore. Wadsworth, we ignore. Heath. So Heath gets his second activation now. So we'll stow that and move back up here. All right. So as we can see, the Confederates haven't gotten their march, so Davis kind of appears to be in suspended animation a little bit. However, now we kind of have contact. These lead elements can definitely see each other. Oh, good grief. Moved a little bit too far there. Come on. There we are. So these two have definitely spotted each other, and now we have some decisions here for Heath. Do we try to pitch right into the cavalry, or do we wait for more troops to come up, or what do we do? So right now, Archer is in advance. That means that those units can all use their full movement allowance, or they can fire. So they have that alternative to either move or fire, or possibly do rally and resupply. But they cannot move adjacent to any enemy unit unless it's just completely unsupported artillery. So that's the trade-off between attack and advance. Um, Looking at another comment. Oh, okay. So let's see. Well, got a bunch of rifle arm guys coming up. They have good cohesion. We've kind of caught the Union cavalry there a little bit flat-footed. So I'm going to actually be a little aggressive here, and I'm going to figure that this lead unit here, the 5th Alabama, I believe it is, if they were under attack orders, they could move up and get a pot shot at that horde of mounted cavalry there and maybe drive them off of the schoolhouse ridge. So to do that, Archer is going to have to change his orders to attack. So I'm going to attempt to do that. Now keep in mind, when a division activates, you have to make any decisions relative to whether you're going to try to change any of the brigadier's orders and or any attempt made to coordinate brigades, that is, to be able to use more than one brigade at a time to activate. You have to make those decisions, take the chance on the order change and the coordination tables, and of course live with whatever result you get. You have to make that decision before you move anyone. So that's an important thing that some people forget. And you move one brigade, and then you look at the next one, and you're like, "Oh, wait, I should be attacking here." And they're in advance orders, and it's like, "No, you already started moving the division, so you should not be able to attempt an orders change unless you spot it early on." So we're going to do that now. The artillery is probably out of range for a shot. I'll have a look at it, but they're probably not within range for a shot. Uh, so I'm going to say that Archer is going to attempt to change his orders on his own initiative. If you look on his counter there, that yellow box with +1 means that he adds 1 to the die roll to change orders on his own initiative. So we'll roll, and we get another 1. So that is not good news. 1 plus 1 is 2, and that result on the orders change is to retain. So they stay in advance orders. So with that in mind, the 5th Alabama is going to kind of wait for the rest of the guys to get up and then maybe mount an assault. So they are going to change facing. 1, 2, 3, 4. That little rivulet there doesn't cost anything. 5, they're going to move there to a kind of a threatening position. Now, also note that because they have moved within 3 hexes of the Union cavalry has the option to attempt to back up and retreat away from them. Basically, they can retreat 1 or 2 hexes and then roll against their cohesion, which is a very good 8. If they fail, they will be disordered. And if not, they can, keep retreating. If the enemy continues to move close to them, they can do that as many times as they want. But of course, if they start failing cohesion checks, they're going to start losing troops. Let's see, at this point, the Union is not going to retreat because they kind of know the rest of that column of troops is good quarter mile off, and those are only the first troops, so they're going to stay. Now these guys will move up along the road, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They'll move there. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They'll move there. Archer is going to move to a more central position, but he's going to stay on the road for the same reason that leaders, if they can, should stay close to the road, because the road helps to maximize the movement point radius of leaders that are attempting to create a command control net. So it's kind of a good practice to leave your leaders on roads. All right, now that we've got that, let's see if the artillery has any kind of a shot. I don't think they're going to. That's probably going to be a bit out of range. So let's have a look. First thing we want to do is see if there are any line of sight issues. As we can see, the Confederate units, if I hide the pieces, are on this relatively higher ground, but it is the same terrain level as the schoolhouse hill where the Federal cavalry is perched. In front of it, we have these woods. Excuse me again as I fumble with the map. We have these woods here on one level of terrain lower. The trees itself add one level of terrain, so the tops of those trees are at the same level as the artillery are, but again, it doesn't block. And we have long distances here with more terrain at this level, heading all the way across here to Schoolhouse. Is it Ridge? Just a Schoolhouse. Schoolhouse Ridge, we'll call it. We have friendly units that would be in the way, but they are lower, and you can fire over the tops of friendly units. So the line of sight should be clear. Question here is probably going to be effective range. Let's see what type of guns we've got here for the Confederates. Oh, we've got some Parrott guns, so those are pretty good. The Napoleons will definitely be out of range, but we do have Parrott guns and Napoleons. And here, Napoleons, they're going to be out of range. And H 12-pound howitzers, they're also going to be out of range. The Parrott guns might have a chance, so let's find out what the range actually is. We'll get our handy line of sight tool, and we'll just draw a line there. That's range 22. That doesn't bode well. So I will look on the range effects chart for 10-pound Parrots and see that their maximum range is, what do you know, 23. At 17 plus hexes, their modifier is a -3. So they would have a -3 to the die roll just for range. There would be no other considerations for the size of the target. It doesn't matter that they are mounted on horseback, or does it? Let's see here. Target is non-phasing mounted cavalry. Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with whether you're firing shot or or grape or canister. So they would get a +1. They get 1 back for a mounted cavalry target. So now they would get a -2 to their die roll. We look back here and we see that there are only 2 of those guns, 2 parrots. And looking at the fire table for 2 to 3 on the bombardment, you need a modified 3 or greater to get any kind of effect. And most of them would be little d minus results, which would mean a check against morale with probably some kind of negative modifier. And since our targets here, our erstwhile targets, have an 8 cohesion, the chances of them failing that check are minimal. So that's pretty much a wasted shot. So they're not going to do anything. Okay. They can't move forward, as we said, with the creek. So that's going to pretty much do it for Archer's second and ultimately final activation. So we move that there. Now, the reason that we move our activation chits onto this display after they're used is to store them for the end of the turn. At the end of the turn, remember, the 2 sides don't know what their efficiency is, but this is a way to keep things honest. So at the end of the turn, you do actually reveal to your opponent, my efficiency was this. You explain if any of their leaders or their position or something added or subtracted from it, and then you can kind of figure, oh, okay, and you can figure out whether maybe one side used too many activations or not. That's what it is. It's basically just a keep them honest sort of thing. All right, so we get finally the Confederate March chit. And actually, this is good. Oh, wait a second. I forgot to put Buford's 1 chit into the hat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Confederates back. Yeah, I sure did. And I'm going to go back and, well, thankfully he only got 1. Normally they get 3. Let's see here. Let's go back to AMs and EMs and let's find good old Buford cavalry, and we'll put that back in there and give them an even chance to get the next activation, and we'll pull, and it is in fact Buford. Okay, so Buford's going to get his 1 activation before the Confederate March. Okay, so now we have a somewhat strung out group of units here. However, there's not going to be any penalty because this is the first turn of the game. And in all series games, for the first turn, everyone is considered to be in command no matter what their position or situation is. So you basically get 1 turn to correct any problems. Now, if there was something going on like the desire to change orders, in which case units have to be within command radius to get the memo and change orders, you would suffer that penalty. But for now, everyone is assumed to be in command. Okay, so we've got Buford here. He has 2 crack brigades under Devon and Gamble. And I think I actually, yeah, I believe I did. I did not put Devon on the map. My mistake. Let me fix that real quick. Where is Buford's cavalry? Cavalry brigades. Devon. And we'll put him there. There we go. All right, so Devon's back here. about a mile behind, and then the forward units are Gamble. So, what's our overall plan? We know we have to stall. We have to stay astride the road, and we have heard rumors that there are more Confederate troops approaching from the north here. So, how far forward do we want to go? Well, we want to use the terrain as much as possible. So let's kind of make a stand here on the ridge and block. So these forward units should be able to block this area and perhaps get some units behind Hers Ridge. As you can see, there's a lot of escarpment here, steep hillsides here that are going to impede everyone's movement. So you probably don't want to be right on top of Hers Ridge. Maybe this one behind it. Actually, the position they're on there looks a tad more defensible, but you have to play for time, so let's use the terrain that we have. We'll start off by getting Devon to start moving cross country and more towards the northern part here. So we'll start with them. All right, 9 movement points in advance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's 9. Actually, all these units should be facing vertices rather than hex sides. And let's see, follow suit here. 1, 2, the little swale or depression doesn't cost anything. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The orchards, I don't think cost anything. Let me check the terrain effects chart and make sure that orchards cost. Oh, they do cost mounted cavalry too. You can probably unhorse yourself by going into the wrong branch there. So 2, 3, 4, they'll have to go around. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then Devon will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, the thing we really have to look out for is that Devon could end up out of command. Buford has a range of 7, but they're moving on parallel lines. So that's going to be something to kind of watch out for. There's really not much Devon can do with a range of 4. He could position himself kind of along the ridge in between, but yeah, we'll just have to watch it. Okay, and we also have this small unit here. It's kind of a special untrained unit that cannot dismount and also cannot charge. For whatever reason, they're over here with Gamble and Buford and not with Devon. So I'm going to send them over with Devon. been used for errand boys, I guess. So now they're going to move back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the facing change. So I'll do that. All right. So there's Devin's move. Now, for gamble, we first have to figure out what are we going to do about this. Probably need to take up a position. We probably don't want to stay on horseback because that just makes us a big target. So the first thing we're going to do is unhorse these 2 units. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're working with. Got the, come on. Oh, great. Let me actually physically get closer to this. 8th Illinois A and B. And I will go to the tray here under Buford's cavalry and under Gamble and find the 8th Illinois. Whoops, no, that's Devon. We want Gamble. There we go. 8th Illinois A, 8th Illinois B, dismounted, and change their facing. And actually, I can delete these. I can always get a copy of the mounted unit when I need it again. Okay, so they dismount, and the effects of dismounting are that after you dismount, you are left with 1/2 of the printed movement allowance of the unit that you have become. So now they have a 5 movement allowance, which is halved and then rounded up to 3. So they can move 3 movement points. And so what they will do is split up and let's see. I want to make sure they have the best field of fire and just block the road here. We'll zoom out and keep the rest of the cavalry here mounted and moving up in support. And also maybe engage in a couple of tactical shenanigans if we can. All right, so we have this unit here. He'll move up along the road. 1, 2, 3. Willoughby Run doesn't cost anything because I'm on the road. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll move there. This unit. 1, 2, 3, 4. The stream costs cavalry +1. So 4, let's do it this way, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. Then this unit, we'll leave Gamble there for now until I figure out where to put him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And he'll move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we have some horse artillery. And I see a really good position for it if I can get there, up on this knoll. It's a nice little knoll. As you can see, it's got a steep ridge almost all the way around it. So that would make it really hard to take with any kind of a charge. So I'm going to head the artillery for that, towards that. And let's see how far we can get. If I go overland, it's going to cost at least 2 movement points for every hex, and that's going to be too slow. So let's use the road for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll move them there. Okay, Gamble. This is the only move we have, and his radius is 5. So I want to make sure he's in a position where everyone under him is in command. And so this should do. Buford, same with him. Let's move him up there. And now the Union cavalry is done. And then I will mark everyone as not moved. Move Buford's cavalry here to its plate AM. And now we get the last activation, which is the Confederate March. So now the Confederates have the same option to move as many activations worth of movement that they want. They're already on a pike. So provided they stay on that pike, they can pretty much go wherever they want. They also have the tactical advantage of knowing this is the last activation. So they don't have to worry about moving in March and then maybe having the cavalry stage some kind of attack before they can change their orders. So they actually get to use or take advantage of their march orders here. Let's see. Let's try something a little different. We've got some more elements of this division coming up in the next turn. We've got a brigade here in front going down the main axis of advance. I'm going to use this march to get these guys here farther south along these roads and imperil Buford's position through March. So I'm going to move these boys. We'll use 3 activations worth. It's no sense in incurring any fatigue. And we're going to use the Whistler's Ridge Road here and over here. See how close to this crossroads we can get to command Hers Ridge from the south. All right, so let's move these guys here. So we have 3 activations worth, 6 movement points per activation, so that's 18 hexes as long as we stay on the road. So let's count them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So they end up there at the Tiller farm. Maybe get a little bit of breakfast and some shoes, of course. Gotta have the shoes. They'll end up there. We're gonna spare Davis here because we've got some other plans for him. He's going to try to did that again. There we go. we're going to try and do with Davis is keep him in command. So let's see here. This guy's got 13. I believe he's going to have 2 extended column markers. He's so large. Okay, now Davis. Oh, I'm going to back up and I'm going to move Heth. He would have done this actually with the division activation to the crossroads there. And then we're going to move Davis so that he stays within Heth's relatively paltry range of 4. Yeah, Heth is not on his best today. It only has a radius of 4 hexes, as you can see in the black circle with the white 4 in it. Okay, so if he is there with leaders having a half a movement point, everyone here will be in command except for the artillery, which will be 1, 2, yeah, they're going to be out of range, but they've got all kinds of issues anyway. Okay, so we have used Davis to move and march all the way there. So that's it for them. And now we are at the end phase where we do leader movement. And the only corps or better commander who is on the field is our reinforcement commander Reynolds down here, and he will enter here. Now, here's the trick with commanders. They can move, in the leader movement phase, they can move up to 10 movement points worth and maintain their command radius. In Reynolds' case, 6. But they can, at their option, move up to 40 movement points, and that represents 4 activations of 10 movement points. 10 movement points being the movement allowance for all commanders, whether they be brigadiers, division commanders, whatever. However, if they move 11 through 40 movement points, then their radius is reduced to 0. So basically, they would have to be stacked with any leader in order to benefit that leader with being in command or any of his attributes, such as the +1 to their efficiency. So, with that in mind, Reynolds is going to want to limit his movement allowance to 20 hexes, which would be 10 movement points at the pike rate of 1/2 a move, or 1/2 a movement point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoops. 9, 10. So he can move there. If he goes any further, he would be in an overmove condition. Now let's see what the effects of this are. If his radius is 6, he can move an additional 12 uh, movement points up that road in order to keep the division commander, or Wadsworth, here in command. And as you can see, he's well within 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Wadsworth will be in command for the next turn. Let's see what effect that has on these guys. Are going to be probably out of range of Wadsworth. They're kind of operating ad hoc. They're going to start dithering a little bit, so they're going to be out of command. All right. But at any rate, that's it for the commander movement. The Confederate Corps commander has not seen fit to enter the fray yet, still having some breakfast behind the lines. And so that's going to be the end of the first turn. And so we go to the 8 o'clock turn. And that took an hour and a half with explanations and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, let's go through another turn and see what happens. All right, so the first thing we do after the turn starts is to determine who has initiative. As you'll remember, the Confederates started with initiative on the first turn automatically. So for subsequent turns, they get a +1 to their die roll because they had initiative in the previous turn. So I'll roll for the Confederates first and add a +1, and then I'll roll for the Union. So we got a 9 for the Confederates. They get a +1. No way the Union can beat that, so I won't even roll. Confederates have initiative. I'll type myself a note. Okay, so the Confederates retain initiative. I'm now going to have a look on my reinforcement chart to see if anyone is coming on, and Heth gets 2 additional brigades for Pettigrew and Brokenborough, and they each have 2 activations. It is stated specifically, so it makes no difference what the efficiency is going to be for Heth. Pettigrew and Brokenborough only have 2 activations. All right, so having determined that, now we do the efficiency phase. So we go back here, and also at this point, this is where the 2 sides would have revealed what their efficiency is to the other player to make sure everything's honest. And we'll mask it. We'll put that there. All right, so the Union is going to take all their chits and throw them back into the hat. And I will also check the Union reinforcement schedule to see what's coming on. It's possible. Oh no, Rally's already come on. So we have some additional 2nd Division of the 1st Corps units that come in. But that's not an additional. It's not an additional corps. So let's check that. Yep, it's Robinson basically. So it's just another division in Reynolds' corps. So we have Reynolds, we have Wadsworth, and Buford to draw efficiency for. So we'll draw out. Whoops. Actually, before I do that, remember that I still have that pesky 1 over here. We'll mask that and stuff that in there. Okay. Move his AM back here. Now we will draw efficiency for Reynolds. We will draw efficiency for Doubleday. Where is he? No, it's not Doubleday. Let's see, Reynolds first corps. Rowley. Let me check and see. No, Rowley's also the same corps, I believe. Oh yeah, they're all the same corps. So really, that's all we check for is for Reynolds and for Buford. I don't know why I got confused there. So we'll do that, and now I will draw the rest of these out. All at once. And then I will do the same for the Confederates before I spoil the surprise. Got to have a little suspense. Okay, so the mix of Confederate efficiency is 1-1, 2-2s, 5-3s, and 2-4s. Okay. Now, let me expand this so we can see a little better. We'll just drag these into the hat. Come on. There we go. Drag those into the hat, and now we draw one for, let's see, just AP Hill, who is not on the map yet. And that's it for the Confederates. Okay. Let's move Heth back here. So we draw one for AP Hill. And now let's break the suspense and see what we got. So here we peek and we see that they get 2. Now hold on to your hat. It actually gets worse for the Confederates. But they got a 2. And now let's bring the Union one back, and we see that Reynolds gets a 3, and Buford gets a 1 again. Oh my goodness. So Buford is mailing it in. He only gets 1 again this turn, and that does not bode well. However, the Confederates don't exactly have a free lunch either. And the reason for this is, as we saw, they drew a 2 efficiency. Let's peek at that again. Now, that assumes that AP Hill is the corps commander and is on the map and is within range of his divisional leaders, i.e. Heth. We know that that's not the case. So Heth is going to have 1 fewer activation. So they will also have 1. Now, any of the units that stay in March, they can still, use their up to 4 activations worth of movement if they choose to stay in March. However, the tactical situation is not going to change too much this turn because both of our combatants are limited to only 1. And that's, of course, if the leaders don't add any with their capabilities. And I don't believe they do. He definitely doesn't. It's possible that Buford might. So let's investigate that first. So let's have a gander up here at Buford. And as you can see, Buford has a +2. Let's see here. The 2 is his brigade coordination. His activation rating is the +1 in the yellow box. So actually he gets 2. Should have remembered that for last turn when they got 1, but we will redress that now. Okay, so he gets 2. Also, cavalry divisions are allowed to operate independent, so they don't suffer penalties if they don't have a corps or overall commander within radius. So Buford is going to actually aid the cause, and he will have 2 activations this turn. Checking out Heth, we can see that he's got zeros across the board, so he doesn't add. So he's only going to have the 1. However, Davis is still in march orders, and if he chooses to, can risk staying in march orders, but actually that's not a good idea when you've got enemy cavalry around, because they can very quickly move up and get into that march column and really wreak havoc. So we're probably not going to use the march chit, but you still put it into the hat just in case. Okay, so let's draw all of the Confederate efficiency markers out of the hat at the same time, set them aside, and now we'll start to place the activation markers into the hat. The Confederates start, so they actually start with their only activation, and there it is. They can still put their march chit into the hat, and that's it. The Union only has, Buford will have 2 chits, and let's see, I didn't make these clonable for a reason, because you should always actually move these chits from the AM and EM display, because when you do it that way, they don't create reports in the buffer that can kind of tip off how many chits you're moving. So let's go to the Union activations, get Buford. We're going to move 1. We're going to move 2 into the hat there. We're going to move the march chit in, and 1 for Reynolds. I don't know why I confused myself. And let me move this over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. All of these really just need to go. And we want Union March chit is already in there, and we want Reynolds. Where is Reynolds? Reynolds, come on. Oh, this is actually done by division. Okay. So we have Wadsworth and Robinson, who will each get 3. They're still going to use their march chit, so I'm actually going to just leave that in there and have this turn go by quicker. But ordinarily we would put 3, well, actually more. Reynolds as a corps commander, let me stow these to the side here. Reynolds as a corps commander has some efficiency bonuses, I believe. We can find round tops. Where is Reynolds? Has a +1, and what that means is he can add a efficiency or an activation to any one division under his command each turn. So he could actually give a fourth activation to either Wadsworth here, 1 of 1, and let me see, this is 3. It's the 3rd division. That is Doubleday. I'm wondering now if Doubleday should be on the map. Hang on a second. Yeah, he's actually not listed. Reynolds, First Corps, Wadsworth, Wainwright, Cutler, Meredith, Raleigh. Where is Doubleday? He's actually not on the reinforcement list, and that makes no sense if he is never there. July 2nd. Yeah, I don't see him on there. That's an odd oversight. He should be on the list. So I'm assuming then that he should be. So I'm going to fix that now. And First Corps, Doubleday, and I'm going to put him here with Stone. There we are. Okay. Let's see here. McPherson's Ridge. They still got a good long way to go. Oh, they're all going to stay in March. So it really doesn't matter how many activations that Wadsworth would ordinarily put in there, but just say for the sake of argument that he gives Doubleday the extra activation. So Doubleday would have 4, Robinson would have 3, and Wadsworth would have 3. But I'm not even going to drag them into the hat simply because both of those divisions, the entire Corps, in fact, are going to stay in March. So just in the interest of time, we're going to do it that way. Let me check my comments and see if anybody has any comments. Nope. Okay. Here we go. So then we have the orders phase. And we also determine who is in or out of command, because being out of command will cost you an activation over the turn. So we have, for the Union, we have Doubleday actually being out of command. And maybe an out of command marker might be easier to see. Commander, extended move, commander finished. Do I have, I may not have an actual counter for out of command, seeing as I have it on the counters itself, so I guess I didn't have one. Let's use a command finished to serve the same purpose. Okay, so Doubleday is actually out of command. but because he's in march, he still gets to, choose the number of activations he's going to use. That's also part of the device of how march is used as grand tactical movement all at once. You still get to choose how many activations worth you are going to use, independent of what the activation for your division might be or your corps might be. That kind of takes into account the fact that when you were put in march miles and miles ago, you were given orders about where to go and how long to take to get there, how hard to march your troops, and you're just basically following them in march. And so until you shake out and deploy on the field, you're considered to still be following the last orders you got. So that's what goes on there. Poor Heth, as we see, only has one activation and the march chit. He knows he's facing cavalry, and he knows what cavalry can do to a march order column. So it doesn't make sense to keep them in march. It's too much of a risk. So he is going to shake them out into advance orders. Buford is, yep, he's going to stay in advance because obviously he's not going to attack, he's going to defend. And he needs his movement allowance to be able to maintain his position there. That position there is a little bit untenable, but we'll see what happens. Now, let's see what happens for command for poor Devon over here. He's going to be out of range of Buford, who has 7 leader movement points. So even moving back down along that road, there's no way. So Devon is going to be out of command and operating on his own initiative. He also gets 1 fewer activation. So although Buford has 2 activations to use this turn, Devon will only use 1 of them. And that is, of course, at the Union player's option. Gamble, the other brigadier, is obviously well within range, and Buford operates independently. He's the top of the chain as far as efficiency goes. Okay, so all the units are given their orders, or if they want any unit that's in command can get a free order change. You simply make it happen, and that's the same thing that happened with this brigade over here. They are within range of Arch, or within range of Heth, even though he's out of command of his corps commander. He can still forestall any additional penalty for brigadiers under him. So let's see here. Right. But because he is within range, they do get to take advantage of the free order change. Now, let's see about Archer. Do we want to change his orders to attack? That's what we tried to do last turn and were unsuccessful. Let's do that. We're going to move Archer to attack, and we're going to at least try and blast them off of that ridge there. Okay. All right. So everyone has changed their orders that can. And also let us set up the reinforcements that are going to be coming in for the Confederates, and that is Pettigrew and Broken Bow. So let's go to 3rd Corps, Heth Division, Pettigrew, Broken Bow here. these aside on the map. And keep in mind, they can, if they wish, enter in March. We'll make that decision soon here. Pettigrew is our second group, and these are some nice troops. Lots of them, and look at those cohesions, very high. Okay. So Broken Bros guys have pretty low cohesions. Look at those fours. So let's say that Pettigrew is going to come on ahead of Broken Bro, and let us also put Broken Bro under march orders, and Pettigrew will have him come on in advance. There we go. That also happens during the command and order segment, that you give orders to any reinforcements that are set to come on the map. The Union also has some reinforcements, but they are basically, let's see, it's the Robinson Division with Paul and Baxter, a couple of extra units, but they have a maximum of 1 activation. So they're going to be in March as well. So we'll get to that when the Union draw their March chit. And let's, without any further ado, start the turn. All right, Heath. Heath knows he only has the 1 activation. It's not good. So he's going to nevertheless open the attack with Archer's brigade. He's had a little bit of luck in that the cavalry have dismounted, so now they don't have that option to reaction move away from him as they approach. So let us get the party started. First, I'm going to look at this marsh terrain and see what effects that has on movement. Marsh. It costs 2 movement points, so that's pretty much going to break up the assault a little bit. But we are going to actually make the most of this. All right, so we'll start with this unit moving up. 1, 2, let's see. I don't, yeah, let's go for it. We're going to go hell-bent for leather here. We'll move up 3 hexes, move adjacent to this unit, which we intend to shock, and we also want to soften him up a little bit, so we're going to open hostilities by taking the first shot of the game. And let's see if I can get the player aid PDF opened here, put that in front, and show you exactly what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. All right, let's see if we can get all of this onto the map at once. Yeah, we can. All right, so here's how, here's how combat works. We have 6 strength points, and with the R in the circle there, we know that the unit is armed with rifles. So we have 6 strength points of rifles. We look here on the range effects chart, and we see that at range 1, rifled muskets have a +1 modifier. We cannot use prep fire, which it is in range for, but we can't use that because the unit has moved. Again, these units are under attack orders so that they can both move half of their movement allowance and fire in the same activation. Units that are in advance can only do one or the other. Move their up to their full movement allowance or fire. Okay, so this unit has a +1 at range, and that's the only modifier. There are no modifiers for these small slopes. That has nothing to do with it. So he's in otherwise open terrain. Also, defenders have to decide whether or not they're going to return fire before the firing player rolls, and that return fire is considered to be simultaneous. They will fire back. Okay, so we have 6 strength points, total of +1 for the modifier, and now we go to the fire table. We're on the small arms table here, and we're on the 6 column because he has 6 strength points. Add 1 to the die roll, and let's see what happens. We roll another, wow, we've gone to the dice 3 times, and we've gotten a 1 every time. I do not like the vassal die roller. I really do not. But nevertheless, 1 + 1 is 2. And on the 6 to 8 table, a 2 is a D -1. We check his cohesion. His cohesion is 7. So basically, unless I now follow this up with a 9, he will be undisturbed. So I'll roll that, and I get an 8. Ordinarily, he would be disordered because that's higher than his cohesion, but the result was a D -1, so that 8 becomes a 7. It's equal to his cohesion. He's fine. Now he gets to fire back. We see that he is armed with carbines, right? Let's see. What is that? B? Oh, they're breech loaded. Those are good weapons, I believe. Let's go back up here and see what B's are. Breech loaded carbines. Wow. They are +3 at range 1. And they get to use the prep fire bonus too. So that's a total of +4 to this die roll. So even if he rolls a 1 again, that's going to be pretty good. So they roll. Oh my goodness. He rolls a 0. Of course he rolls a 0. And let's find out what the results of that. So total is +4. 0 becomes a 4. Whoops. And the result there with 4 strength points firing, so we use this column, is a lowercase d. So that's an unmodified roll against the target's cohesion, which is 5. He rolls a 1. So basically we get desultory exchange of fire. Nothing happens. All right. Second unit is now going to move up 1. Or will we? Hang on a second. Let's not be so hasty. This unit now is going to move up and try and get on the flank of this unit. We'll move 1, free facing change, 2, and then move 3 onto his flank, and will elect to fire. Now, this unit doesn't have to just stand there and watch that happen. When they see that happen, they can change their facing in a reaction, but they have to make a UDD to do so. So they're obviously going to do that because they don't want that unit on their flank. So They make that change and they take their UDD, which is a 4, which they pass. Now this unit wants to fire and they can exchange fire, and they will. So we'll start with the Confederate unit, which is rifle armed, 3 strength points. We know that that's a +1 at range. He does not have the flanking bonus, and so it is on the 3 column +1. Also, he does not get prep fire because of the fact that he moved. So 3 + 1, and I rolled another 1. Wow. Not much effective fire going on here. So 3, and he rolls a 2. That is nothing. The return fire is going to be more breach loads. Yep. 5 at range 1, and as we already calculated, that's +4 on the 5 table. And they roll a 4, which turns into an 8. And the effect of an 8 on the 5, 4 to 5, and 8 becomes a uppercase D, which means automatic disorder. So this unit is automatically disordered as a result of that fire. Now, knowing that this unit has exposed its flank, now this unit will move up. 1, 2, 3. They can't make it for the shock, but they can fire at the unit and will do so. So we have rifles at a range of 2, and I do know that the range attenuation is still +1, and he still does not get the prep fire bonus because they moved, but because he is firing directly into the flank, he gets an additional +1. So that's 6 table and +2. Let's roll on that. 2 plus 2 will be 4. That'll probably be a lowercase d. How many strength points? 6. 4 is in fact a lowercase d. His cohesion is 7. Unmodified 9. So he actually fails and is disordered. That's a good turn for the Confederates. Now this unit here will move up 1, 2, 3. Archer will move up there because they intend to shock. And then this unit, 1, 2, 3. Now, you'll notice I only moved 3 movement points for this infantry, which usually has a movement allowance of 6. That's because they are under attack orders, which effectively halves your movement, but allows you to both move and fire in the same activation. All right, so now we've all moved into position, and now we're going to attempt a shock. Here they are not going to because they are outmanned, and well, it might be a decent enough risk to try and get them to stand, because then they would have to make a cohesion check, and if they fail it, the unit could rout. So that would be quite a risk. However, the odds are not good. No. They've decided they will not attempt a shock, but here they will. So let's move out a shock marker here. So they've declared a shock here. Union is looking at this, and they have decisions to make. They've got a disordered unit here on their flank, And if they decide to retreat before combat, the enemy will be able to advance and will be behind them and kind of cutting them off and surrounding them. So really they have little choice but to try and hold that position. So they are going to elect to stand. They will not retreat before shock. So then we go to the pre-shock cohesion check. And they have to make a UDD against their cohesion, which is 7. They're not disordered or anything like that, so there are no modifications to that roll, and they roll a 7. So they just make it. Now they get to another round of defensive fire into the on-charging rebels. So they get another shot with a +4 on the 4 table. 2 + 4 is 6. On the 4 table is a D +1. So that's a cohesion check with 1 added to the die roll, but then because Archer is present, his 1 star of leadership offsets that, so it turns into just a unmodified die roll, right? Let's see, D +1. Yes, turns into unmodified, and he rolls a 6. His cohesion is 5, so he fails and is disordered. Okay, so now the shock goes in, and this is at the point where this shock counts for fatigue. Any unit that within a 1-hour turn engages in shock either as attacker or defender more than once gains a fatigue level for each additional time they're involved in shock combat. So this is going to be 1 for them. And we will mark them accordingly. And for Archer, this actually goes by brigade. There we go. Now we go to the shock table and we finish up. So we start with an examination of the manpower available, 6 versus 4. That is very neatly 1.5 to 1. And that carries with it a +1 modifier. Let's see if I can bring this up here and find the shock table. There we are. Okay. The attacking player has his brigadier present, which if their profile, that letter there, is an A, they would get a +1 for that assault. An N for normal, they don't get any bonus. But if a brigadier kind of hangs in the back and doesn't participate in any of the shocks for his brigade in an activation, all of those shocks will suffer a -1 penalty. That's not the case here because the leader is present. Unit is disordered. Oh, wait, I'm showing you the wrong area of this chart. Hang on a second. Any defender disoriented or any attacker disordered, a -1. And as we saw here from the pre-shock fire, they were disordered. So they have a -1 for that. There are no other modifiers for terrain, for position, for any other effect. So our total calculus is no modifier at all. And that is derived from the attack manpower having a 6 of 4 advantage, that's a +1, and the attacker is disordered, which is a -1. So the net is a 0. So we roll, and oh, wow, we get a 9. That's going to be a good one. All right. So the result for a 9 on the shock table is the defending unit retreats 1 hex and is disordered. The attacker may or must continue shock. Oh, wait, hang on a second. It's actually worse. Oh, no, no, no. What I was thinking was the attacking unit moved and could have had a +1 infantry charge benefit, but they threw that one away because they fired. You only get the charge benefit if you just bring the men on, you move at least 1 hex to contact, and do not fire. Then you get an additional +1. Okay, so we get a defender retreat and an option for the attacker to continue shock. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. They are going to flip over in disorder. They retreat 1 hex, and the attacker gets to advance into the hex, and then they can get a free facing change if they want, and then they get the option to continue the attack. Now, if they do that, no matter which way they end up facing, they would have to attack both of those units. Because when you do a shock attack, all of the units in your frontal hexes have to be attacked by either yourself or other units. And this is the only shock attack in this phase, so they can't. So it doesn't make sense to do that, but what they will do is change facing so that both these units are in their frontal hex, but bring the leader with them. They will not. Let me also check the rules and make sure that they do have the option not to consider or not to continue the attack. Because they are under attack orders, they may have to. Let's see. Continued shock. In the following cases, continued shock is mandatory when an attacking unit charged and voluntary when it did not charge. And because they fired as they moved in, that was not a charge. So they have the option to continue the attack. And they will not continue the attack. Now, post-shock disorder, all attackers, if they were not already disordered, become disordered. Since they are already disordered, they take a strength point loss. Okay, and how do we increase it? Control Shift equals. Oops. And because the unit took a loss, we have to roll to see if Archer was killed during that. And you roll an 8, you need only a 0 for a leader casualty, so there is no casualty. And that's the end of the shock phase. So we'll take that off, the movement markers. And so now we see that Well, we've got a total exchange of disorder. Everybody's disordered. Archer has some pretty poor cohesions, but the Union cavalry also are disordered, and they do not have a lot of men to use up. So I don't know. I'd kind of call it a draw at this point. Okay, so now we will bring out the Confederate sheet here and mark Heth as having used an AM. Stow that, and we will now pick the next chit, which is the US March chit. Okay, so now we can go down here and continue this march and also bring on Union reinforcements. Let's do that first. Okay, rally units are already on the map. What we get is Robinson's 2nd Division of the 1st Corps, which includes, let's first go down here to Zone 12, and we'll start with Robinson himself. Then we go to his brigades and find that we get the Paul Brigade, and we get the Baxter Brigade, that is in effect the entire division, plus the 5th Maine Battery, so we probably have some divisional artillery here. Let's see. This says 5th Maine, 1 New York, and B4 US. Let's see if any of these are, oh, okay. B1 PA, B4 US. Okay, these are some of the units that actually are up in this column, so let's remove them from this column here. If I can find it. We had, there's B4 US and 5th Maine. Huh. 5th Maine, 1 US, 1 New York? Where is that? E1 of 1 New York and 2 Maine. 2 Maine. Oh, I see. Okay. So actually, these 3 all go here. Wadsworth only comes on with this 1 2nd Maine battery, and we'll close up our march column to reflect that. These guys come on now. Is that it? Now, these reinforcements only have 1 activation. Okay, great. That'll make it easy. They come on in March, and one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8. Get 2 batteries into a hex. Let's see what we got here. Napoleons, and 3-inch rifles. So let's get the rifles in the lead there. We'll move Robinson at the head. We'll give him march orders. And since the rest of these, or wait a second, hang on a second. 8 movement points. What's the effective roads for artillery? Do they also move a half? Let's see. Terrain effects chart. Artillery on roads. My chart says 1, but I also know my chart is wrong. It should be a half. So let's move them 8 more hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and now these, Baxter and Paul, will, let's find, Robinson, there we go. Okay, let's move, there's Baxter's pretty mediocre troops with 1 veteran brigade among them. This one, about the same. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter, so let's start with the Paul brigade and get them on the map. Paul with them. So we said half a movement point for the pike, 6 movement points, 1 activation is 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the lead unit goes there. All at the head. That was 6 strength points. 9. We want to clone an extended column. He's got 6. He's got 5. And we have the Baxter Regiment. Come on. 5, 4, 5, 6, and 4. 5, 4, 5, 6, and 4. Get up to 8. No. Won't be able to do any stacking there. 5, 4, 5, 6, and 4. To save time, I'm going to bring them in the order that they're in the display and not say move this better regiment to the front, which I could do and probably should do. So let's just do that. There we go. All right. They're under march. They're under march. Oh, got him on here twice now, so let's just delete that. Let me check my comments, make sure. Oh, wait. Are you using horse holders for dismounted cavalry? 9:58. Oh, wow, it was half an hour ago. Well, I don't know if you're still here, Charles. No, I'm not. Um, this is a rule that has appeared and disappeared and numerous times throughout the course of the rules. I've always found it a real administrative nightmare and a headache to keep track of them. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to eschew that rule and not use it. So no horse holders. All right, so there's that march column. Now we get to move the rest of them, and the rest of them get to elect again to move up to 4 activations worth if they want to incur the fatigue. It's going to be a long, hard day. It's going to be hot, all of that. So let's say that Wadsworth is going to move 3 activations along the pike, and Doubleday is on the road. He gets to use up to 3 as long as he stays on the road. Let's see, where can he get? He could go around this way. Yeah, he's going to move 3 activations worth as well. All right. Let me check the comments again to see if Charles had anything more to say, and he didn't. All right. Let's go back here. Let's start with Doubleday's column. 3 activations worth 6 movement points, but only 1 for regular roads, right? Yeah, 1 and not a half. Half is reserved for the pike. Okay, so 18 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, it's going to take a while to get all this in here. So what I'm going to do is just move the whole command up here and fill it out. And here. Command. There we go. Okay, and now we got the big column here. Wadsworth. They're on the pike, and I believe they can reach Gettysburg by staying on the pike only. That's going to be a lot of movement. All right, let's see what we got here. 3 activations worth at 12 hexes in activation, 36. I'm not sure if they can stay on the pike for all of 36 hexes. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Let's just get Meredith here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There. 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 24. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 36. I can almost get to the town square. All right. So we have people arriving in Gettysburg here. And there we are. All right. Let's fit it out. I guess that would be this hex. Here we are. Let's see if we can look at it on the overview here. Here's our column. Here's Gettysburg. Here's Buford versus Heth up here where the combat is, and then the arriving units behind it. The Confederate artillery here. So you get an idea of what's going on. All right. So that's it for the Union March chit. So once again, we will. I left the chit there from last turn. We'll do that. And we will bring the hat back. Delete that and draw. And it is Buford who activates. So let's quickly go on over here. Now, as we know, Buford drew a 1. He added 1 with his own initiative. So he has 2. And we also know that Devon here is out of command and he can only use 1 of them. So he could sit out this one, or he could move up and sit out the second one. And I think that is what he will elect to do. No time like the present to move up. Let's get a look at what's in front of them. Let's get that null position there. That looks pretty good. So we'll move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This unit will wheel about, join the party. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, he'll ride ahead a little bit. This unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's leave Devon behind for an instant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And let's move Devon where he'll be in position near Buford. And he'll be there, so he'll be in command next turn unless Buford moves forward. There's that. Now we go to the beleaguered Gamble division. And the first thing we're going to do is move this horse artillery battery up and see if we can't drive off one of those Confederate units. So this artillery moves 2, moves 4, and unlimbers, and now he's going to fire here at the 5th Alabama. Artillery can move up to half of their movement allowance and fire with a -2 penalty in addition to any other penalties if they wish. But wait, hang on. They can't go that close to an enemy unit without having their own units adjacent, and even then there's a risk. So hang on, let's hold that thought, put that unit back there, and let's see here. What's the best way to get a good position that looks almost unassailable? See, Buford being cavalry and being the only thing in the way cannot be too aggressive. Cavalry don't stand up very well to infantry, mounted or dismounted, and he cannot risk himself just being chewed up. Even if he were to, say, exchange here with Archer's brigade and basically wipe each other out, the Union would be in a lot worse shape than the Confederates would be. So they have to be a little bit careful. So let's see here. We've got these 2 disordered units that could get swarmed this turn, so it might be good to get them out of there. Or we could try to have them just stand there, grimly hold their position, and move other units in proximity to where they're not such inviting targets. Okay, here's what we're going to do. 12th Illinois is going to dismount Buford's cavalry. Let's find the 12th Illinois. in their dismounted version. Get rid of them. They're left with 3 movement points, and they will move in 1, 2, 3. Or wait, no, they are in advance, so they cannot move adjacent to an enemy. Let's see here. They'll move there and give the other unit something to retreat into. Now, the 8th Illinois is in kind of a bad spot there. They're going to have to basically shoot their way out of there if they're going to at all. This unit here could exchange fire with them and try and clear some space that way, but of course they might take casualties themselves. Well, it doesn't seem like they have that much of a choice now, so that's what they're going to try and do. The 8th Illinois B is going to fire at the 13th Alabama. 13th Alabama will return fire. Okay, so let's get our charts and tables back. We got 4 strength points of these breech loaders, which are +3. We do not get a prepared fire bonus because we're in disorder. We get a -1 because we are disordered. So now we're at a total of +2. And that's it. So 4 strength points +2. And we get our first 5 of the game. So that's going to, I know this one by memory, it's going to result in a lowercase d. And for them, a level of ammo depletion. So lowercase d, Archer will reduce the die roll by 1. So now this unit will survive if it rolls a 5 or lower. They roll a 7, so they get a second disorder because they are already disordered. They fail their morale check, so they will lose a strength point and have to retreat 1 or 2 hexes. But they do get to return fire before they go. So let's do that. They return fire with 5 strength points of rifles. That's +1. They are disordered, so now it's down to 0. They do not get a prepared fire bonus because they are also disordered, so it is just a straight up 5-column shot. And they get a 2 on the 5 column, which not very good. That ends up being a D -2. So if they roll a 7 or lower, they will pass. They roll a 2, and so they pass. Now let's do the retreat for Archer. They will retreat 1. Let's say they want to kind of get out of the way. So they'll retreat both hexes. They will take a strength point loss down to 4. And Archer will go with them, and we have to check to see if Archer was killed. Rolled a 5, he's fine. So now this unit, because it started adjacent to the enemy and then blasted them out of the hex, can elect to advance into that hex. Whether or not they will, I don't think they will. There's that. Now he's cleared some space for the other unit behind it to retreat, or he can try and shock his way out of danger. Let's see. He's only got 3 strength points, and he's disordered. So this unit is actually going to attempt to use withdrawal movement. And let's see here, no further comments. Okay. He's going to attempt to use withdrawal movement. His plan is to withdraw here and then withdraw there. Now, as he does that, he has to make a UDD, and this unit gets to fire at him once as he leaves. So let's do that first. We'll fire 3 strength points of rifles. That's +1 for range, -1 for the disorder, and that is the only modifier. So 3, and he rolls a 3. What is that? 3 with a 3 is a D -2, and he rolls a 0, so he passes that. Now he can back up there, and I believe he has to make a UDD at the end of his movement. Now, if he had failed his disorder from the withdrawal fire, he would have taken a loss, as that would have been a second disorder, and it would have limited his withdrawal to only 1 hex. But I think that's the only thing that complicates a withdrawal through clear terrain. Let me check that and also make sure he doesn't have to do that. Let's see here. Okay. Maximum of 2 hexes. If any hex the unit wishes to withdraw would cost more than 1, then they have to make a UDD, but that was not the case. So he gets to move both of those hexes, and that kind of solves that issue. Now we can continue on, and we can move Gamble into that hex just to help him if he has to make any further morale checks. And then I'm going to leave 1 unit mounted to kind of throw the fear of a cavalry charge into the Confederate units, and he will move here and change facing. This other unit, which is the 8th New York B, 8th New York B, will dismount and he will use his 3 movement points to go 1, 2, 3 and protect his flank. Now that I've cleared that way, now I can move up the horse artillery battery. Here is the infantry unit that I will use. Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, and line of sight. So actually, the battery can't close the intervening ground unless he has a support unit. So then this unit will have to do that. And that is the 3rd Indiana. See if I can find him in the mix here. 3rd Indiana. He dismounts. And he will move 1, 2. And that clears the way for the horse artillery battery. Okay, he can enter this hex, which is within 1, 2, 3, 4 in line of sight. No, actually, line of sight would be blocked. No, line of sight is not blocked for purposes of determining artillery movement in proximity of enemy. So let's see here. If he moves here, that would be within range 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see. Does he? I believe he does have to make a check, but he can't fail it. Let's see here. Let's find that rule about artillery advancing. Okay. Artillery that moves from further away to a hex within 3 hexes and line of sight of enemy units must immediately undertake a UDD with die roll modifiers equal to the number of enemy small arms units within 3 hexes and line of sight. Okay. Right. Unless stacking with or adjacent to friendly infantry or cavalry, artillery cannot move within 3 hexes of enemy mounted cavalry. Okay. Okay. So he can just move up. All right. He will then move there, 2, move there. That's 4. And we'll unlimber and now fire here. Okay, so that is within 3 hexes, and that is canister range. These are TB or 3-inch rifles. Let's get our range attenuation tables. So within 3 hexes, we get a +1 modifier. We also see that TB or 3-inch rifles do not have the RF for rapid fire, so they do not have the option to fire canister twice at these ranges. So it's a +1. It's on the small arms table because it is in canister range. The unit is 3, or the target unit is 3 strength points, so it doesn't get any benefit for being a small unit. It's also too close for that to matter. So there are no other benefits. They are both on the same terrain level, so no plunging fire bonus. So it is 3 or 6 guns on the small arms table with a +1 modifier total. Okay, so here we are, 6 to 8 table. We will roll. Ooh, when we get an 8, that's going to hurt. And an 8 +1 equals 9. With 6 guns, that is 1 and automatic disorder. Okay, now keep in mind that our target is already disordered. So he takes 1 strength point loss, and then he suffers a automatic disorder, which because he is automatically disordered means that he suffers 2 strength points of loss and must retreat 1 or 2 hexes. A further complication is that now this unit being reduced from 3 strength points to 1 is now collapsed because he is below 1/2 of his strength points rounded up. So half of 3 is 1.5, which is rounded up to 2. So he is now at 1, so he is collapsed. And let's see, where's the collapse marker? There it is. He is collapsed. What that means is that he has to also make a instant stand or rout UDD against his cohesion, which, if he passes it, does not mean that he loses any additional strength point. It just means that he stays on the field. So he gets that, and it's a 1. So he does pass that. He's got to retreat 2 hexes away from the fire, and the best place to go would be on the other side of the ridge. He'll take his 1 strength point marker with him. And his collapse marker. And that was a very good shot for the artillery. All right, now Buford himself is going to move up, and he definitely doesn't want to get too caught up in things. Let's move him here to this crossroad. And now we've already moved Devon. So that's going to do it for the cavalry activation. So let's bring back our hat, and we will mark that Buford has moved, and we'll draw the next activation, which ends up being Buford again. So now we have the coveted consecutive activation. And let me remove the move markers from everyone. And also move this out of the way now. Buford activates again, but we also know that Devon is out of command, and he's got to hang fire for this command because he is finished. And what I usually use is a little inactivity chit here, which I can change the label. Skip second activation. The reason I put that there now is because, here we have a small number of units on the map. It's kind of easy to keep track of. But as Gettysburg builds to a 12 core battle, it's going to be easy to forget things like that. So that's why you get in the habit of using these markers. Okay, so now we have the option here to activate more units here. What we're going to do is Buford is going to be conservative. And so what that's going to mean here is he is going to try to rally these disordered units here. Everybody else seems to be in pretty good shape, and see what Archer is going to throw at him next. Also, he wants to position himself so that Devon will not be out of command for the next turn. His radius is 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or if he uses the road, 1.5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. Darn, he's still going to be out of command here because of Willoughby's run. Oh boy. I don't want him to stay out of command. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shoot. All right, he's going to go in behind this hillock and stay there. Now I won't be able to use his 2 stars to aid in these rally attempts, which I could really use. But we're going to have Devin try to rally this unit because in addition to having more men than the other unit, he is also still kind of faced out of position. So we will have Gamble move there and lend his star to the rally attempt for this unit. His cohesion now is 5, so now he needs a 6 or lower, and he rolls a 7, and he fails. That's not good. The unit next to him will have to try and rally on his own, and he gets a 6, and he fails. And that's not good. However, one thing we can do is move this unit into the hex and to the top of the stack, paying 2 movement points to move to the top, and kind of shield that unit. This unit also, because he tried a rally action, can get his ammo supply back, even though he failed. To rally, he can still replenish his ammo. Same thing here. He's going to move. No, he's going to stay there. He's going to check line of sight here. Let's hide the units. He definitely has line of sight, and let's see what breech-loaded rifles do at a range of 3. I know it's not going to be near the magical effect they have at point-blank range, but it's -2. That's still a shot worth taking. So we're going to fire here into the flank of that unit. So we have 6 strength points at a range of 3, so that's a -2. It's through his flank, which gets us 1 back. So it is -1. Did I get that right? Breach carbines -2, right. So it's -1 total with 6 strength points. 5 minus 1 is 4. The negative modifier actually saved me from ammo depletion. And 6 strength points with a 4 is a D, right? 6 for D. Archer, as the leader, lends 1. So he needs a 5 or less to pass, and he gets a 7 and fails anyway. So he drops another strength point. Confederates are getting their noses bloodied and has to retreat 1 or 2 hexes. And he retreats there. He cannot change his facing as he retreats. You don't get to get a benefit from that. And let's see if we pick off Archer. 5. No, he's fine. And the Confederates are knocked back again. Let's see, that unit is now down to half strength. So he has not collapsed yet, but he's on the brink. Okay, that was a good shot. We'll leave the horse here. Actually, no, we're going to move him into the woods there. 5. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's fine. We'll move there. And now you've got a big huddled bunch there in the swale. So there's more threat of a cavalry charge there. And do we move the artillery battery up? No, we do not. We'll leave the artillery battery where it is And that'll be the end of that activation. So again, we move Buford's activation chit here. Then we pick the next chit, and once again, the Confederates end the turn with the march chit. Okay. So going back here, we see that, oh man, let's see. I'm wondering where, oh, that's right. When it was, when it, I made a mistake here. When Heth drew his one and only activation, I did not move Davis. So since there's only one of them, I will do that now. This unit dropped out of March, so it doesn't need extended column markers anymore. And it will move as follows: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and use one strength or one movement point to extend its line. 5. You will do the same. And then this is a big old green unit. I'm going to just keep him as a reserve. I'll use 1 to pivot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll move Davis there, and Heth will move down the road here to keep both Davis and Archer in command. Now to the march. These guys can move in march. Again, the Confederate gets a bonus from drawing the march chit at the end of the turn because he knows that the Union are not going to be able to even attempt to move mounted cavalry back around there and get into the march column, so they kind of get a free move. So they will use, I guess 2 activations worth along that pike is as far as they're going to be able to get before they can start to shake out next turn. Oh, also, let's see. Oh, this artillery. I could have actually started to move it, but it's going to clog up the road. Wow. Heth only gets 1 activation. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh boy. If I move the artillery here onto this road, it's going to basically pen up these reinforcements. So I'm going to leave them there. We're going to move Pettigrew on. And these are some big boys. Moving along a pike, it's a half a movement point. let's say, even with 3 activations, they're going to be able to get up to where Heth is. All right, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for 1 activation's worth of movement. 1, 2, 3, yeah, okay. So they are going to basically fall in here. And now we're going to need a bunch of extended column markers. Whoops. Okay. Whoa, 17. Wow. Or actually, I'm going to stack him with Heth. The 17 unit has to trail 2 extended column markers. It's so big. There's him. And oh boy. Let's just move them in behind that. It's a shame they couldn't make this crossroads, because then they could have diverted and maybe moved further to the south. And there's Confederate march. Whoops. Gotta change the facing of these units so that they don't face. There we go. All right. So there we have it. That's the Confederate march. That's the last chit. And now we have leader movement. And once again, the only core movement, leader movement we have available is for the Union. And actually, I already, oh no, I didn't move Reynolds. Let's see. Okay, so we have Reynolds here. Want to make sure he keeps, well, Robinson's going to stay in March anyway, so he just has to move up here with his troops as best he can. So he can move 20 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Ah, crossroads. It's a good place to be. see the proximity now. As other units are kind of getting out ahead of them. Wadsworth, let's see here. His radius is 6, which would be 12 hexes on a pike. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So Wadsworth, if he drops out of March, will be out of command. And so will, of course, Doubleday. Let's look at our overview map. Doubleday is over here. The Gettysburg column is here. Our leader is here, and the other reinforcements are here. And here's Buford versus Heth, scrapping it out up here. So that's the end of the second turn. Also, things that would happen at the end of the turn is if any leaders were killed during the turn, their replacements would emerge on the map with the troops that they command, and if there are any battlefield promotions, that would also happen. We don't have any of that here. You would also determine whether any of your brigades and divisions are ineffective. Basically, once they're reduced to half strength by routes or unit eliminations, then the unit becomes ineffective, which means that it would be limited to 2 activations no matter what your efficiency is. They can have no more than 2 activations at a turn. And that's pretty much the only detriment, but that can be a real detriment. So it's fewer activations that they can attempt to rally. If they have any collapsed units, those can't be returned to good order during the day anyway. So it does begin to tell on your army if you start to have ineffective brigades and divisions. All right. So, well, we got through 2 turns in a little over 3 hours. And I think I'm going to stop there. And who knows, maybe I will come back another day this week and do another one of these. We'll see what the response is from this, whether or not it was helpful to everyone or informative or boring, be honest. And yeah, I think we'll halt here. I will go through the process of ending the log file. So now I have a log file, and I will also save the game as Gettysburg first day, turn 3, seeing as that's where I would start. Save that. And we're pretty much golden. So I want to thank everyone who showed up. I'm going to, let's see, right. Okay. Yes, I'm looking at Robert Schrader's very apt comments that I did take into account with the withdrawal movement attempt. And the -2 for moving for the artillery fire, I'm presuming that comment was about. So, yep, we covered all that correctly. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Keep an eye on the Facebook pages for both for SPI games and for Great Battles of the American Civil War for any future announcements. If I decide to actually take this up again tomorrow, who knows? I'm on vacation all week, and so who knows what can happen, especially with the weather that we're having. It's all gray outside. It might even rain. So anyway, it was It was great playing this. This is always fun to revisit Gettysburg, whether on the map or in person, and I had a lot of fun explaining what I was doing and starting this battle and seeing what can happen. So we're going to wrap it up here, and that's all for Stiglr for the details. I'm your host, Alan Dickerson, and I will see you next time.